While the movies are certainly beloved, the advantages of HBO's Harry Potter TV series are abundant. One of the most obvious benefits a TV show has over a movie series is length. There are many important Harry Potter book storylines that were ultimately cut from the movies. Important backstories like the Marauders in Prisoner of Azkaban, thematically cut side plots like Hermione's SPEW organization in Goblet of Fire, or Harry Potter characters the movies cut entirely simply didn't make it into the Warner Brothers franchise. HBO's planned TV series will have the breathing room to adapt the more nuanced plot mechanics. However, there is a subtler but significant advantage that production has that the movies didn't: we know how the story will end. Harry Potter was such a book phenomenon that the movies were rushed into development while the books were still being published. No one knew where the story was heading. Now that the book series is complete, telling the story from the beginning will allow not just more time, but more accurate foreshadowing. Storylines or characters who would become significant in later books, like Harry's relationship with Ginny or Neville, were underplayed in earlier movies, creating an issue in later installments. HBO's Harry Potter TV series will not only have the luxury of more screen time, but a full understanding of the story's arc. While the movies captured the book's sense of adventure, there is so much intricacy to its layered mythology and planted payoffs that the TV series will be able to embrace. Which storylines HBO's Harry Potter can hint at early. The HBO TV series will be able to foreshadow with full understanding. The books are full of details that only reveal their importance in hindsight, and the show can finally lean into that kind of long-game storytelling from the start. Horcruxes are the clearest example. Horcrux rules feel inconsistent in the Harry Potter movies, sometimes behaving almost like sentient objects calling out to Harry. In the books, they're far more deliberate extensions of Voldemort's psyche. Dumbledore understands that well, which is why he correctly deduces that the Horcruxes would be objects of deep personal or historical significance, not random items. A series can seed those objects and that logic early, making the eventual reveals feel earned rather than retrofitted. Dumbledore as a whole is due for a more cohesive portrayal. The films capture his warmth and eccentricity, but often underplay just how calculated he is. Having to recast Dumbledore after the tragic passing of Richard Harris was a production hurdle. With a single, long-form performance, the show can emphasize his quiet manipulation and long-term planning, making his influence feel more intentional. Also, his sexuality can be woven into the series or flashbacks in a way that isn't obvious in the books. Alan Rickman was told Snape's secret motivation, so his acting choices were influenced, but not the script. While the performance hinted at his complexity, the films, especially Half-Blood Prince, flattened the impact of his backstory. A series can track his motivations with more care, allowing key emotional beats to land with proper weight. Then there are the ripple effects of earlier cuts. Removing characters like House Elf Winky and minimizing Dobby in Goblet of Fire weakened the foundation for later House Elf storylines, particularly Kreacher's arc. The same goes for Minister of Magic Rufus Scrimgeour, whose late introduction dulled the political tension he represents. With more time and foresight, the show can build these threads gradually, so their payoffs feel inevitable instead of abrupt. Now that we know who everyone is going to end up with, flirtation can be hinted at and maintained more consistently. Ginny shouldn't disappear from the movies because building her up as a friend makes the romance feel less abrupt. Similarly, Ron and Hermione's arc can lean into the yearning now that we know they end up marrying each other. Is better foreshadowing enough to make a Harry Potter remake worthwhile? The original movies have an undeniable charm, and it's hard to argue that anyone could have perfectly adapted a book series that was still being written in real time. Choices had to be made quickly, and many of those choices worked for the individual film. Order of the Phoenix, for example, strips away major subplots like the St. Mungo's visit, Quidditch, and Percy Weasley's estrangement, and the result is a tighter, more thematically focused film. However, it led to problems in later films, because Neville Longbottom's tragic backstory is hollowed out, undercutting the emotional weight of his role in the final movie. What should feel like the culmination of a long, quietly building arc instead lands as a nice moment rather than an essential one. That kind of simplification doesn't just affect individual characters, it weakens the broader narrative payoff. That's where a remake starts to justify itself. Not because the movies failed, but because they were constrained.